my glasses off so I don't think I'm a dork.
Oh, they think that already. Welcome back to Seeker Strength, and this is Seekistan. Look at the camera. So today we're reacting to Joe Kovacs. He is, according to Wikipedia, his personal best of 23.23 meters. He's a thrower. He is the second best competitor of all time in the shot put event. So I think that makes him pretty alright at shot puts, I think.
It also makes him pretty damn strong.
I've never thrown a
By the
shot
looks
put.
of it.
Have you
Have
done
you
a
not?
shot? Have you? I've never.
Done it at like school sports days and things like that, you know.
I feel like I'd be alright at the hammer.
Not the shot?
No, I don't know. 23 meters sounds pretty far.
Yeah.
So his weight is listed as 134 kilos. Now, obviously, we're not too.
That's your weight, isn't it?
Now, obviously, we're not so interested in his actual numbers for throwing because we don't know anything about the specifics. We're not throwing aficionados, but
No.
what we are is S&C coaches, as a lot of you well know. We're very interested in elite athletes and some of the greatest athletes, S&C. And now you might remember Daniel Stahl, who we thought was an incredibly strong thrower, but Joe Kovacs, S&C, from what we can find, has blown Daniel out of the park. I think Daniel is possibly one of the strongest throwers of all time, probably one of the strongest Olympic athletes of all time.
Yeah.
It has to be up there.
Definitely his strength numbers blow him out of the water. Massively. Like just the sheer numbers in the squat are absolutely absurd.
So what this really reinforces what we're saying a lot of time, we've been saying for years, when we look at Joe's training, you'll see this in a minute, is that you don't need to make it complicated. What we really like about throwers is that they're maximizing power output in a kind of singular event. Now, weightlifters often get touted as the best athletes to look at for power training, but we actually don't think that's the best place to go for athletes when there's S&C training. We think there's a much simpler and probably more productive way, and that's the way we see a lot of these great athletes training, and that is move heavy weights really fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And
As heavy as possible.
Yeah, as heavy as possible, and not in the most complicated of movement patterns either.
No.
You know, like it's not like you're doing even full cleans, even power cleans in this case, where they're incredibly heavy. It's just really, really heavy squats, behind the neck push presses, deadlifts, all of these very, very simple, elementary movement patterns, but being done very, very heavily and being done very quickly, as well, as Garth said.
And so what you can do with this, if you're not a thrower, so you're like, look, lads, we're not throwers, I'm playing football, or I'm playing soccer, or I'm a swimmer, I need different kinds of power output, but you just have to taper this back to your position. You don't have to be a 130 kilo thrower squatting 320 kilos for 10 reps, which is what you'll see in a minute. You need to do whatever the heaviest weight you can do as fast as possible within the constraints of your sport, within your constraints of your body mass and your movement capabilities. So for you, if you're a 60 kilo 400 meter runner, you don't have to squat 320 for 10 fast, but for you, squatting 80 kilos, slightly over body weight for a set of 10 might be enough. Now, I hope that's not enough, but someone out there is probably doing that, but I hope it's a little bit more. I hope it's in triple digits. But you get what I'm saying. You just taper this down. You know, you don't need to make this super complicated. Of course, you do your sport-specific work. You do all the stuff you need to do, and you don't have to do the exact same movements. But the basic principle is the same. As heavy weights as you can manage, as fast as possible, with the inclusion of plyometric work and sports stuff in general. But that is kind of the basis of that.
The other reason I really like looking at like the throwers as a kind of good benchmark or a good hallmark of what your S&C work should look like is it's really clear in their in-season and off-season work. It's clear what kind of blocks they're in. You'll see them doing very, very heavy strength training, then very specific power training. Then they'll go in and they'll do their throwing while maintaining a lot of strength. And then you'll see that immediate polarized change again where they'll go back to the really heavy strength training or they'll go back to a high capacity block. And that is, every single athlete should be looking at that thinking, how can I apply that framework to my sport? How can I be less concurrent? How can I be more blocked out? And how can I kind of achieve things with a small bit more structure in my training?
Now, getting to Daniel's very little training online, but what's online is massive. So here's 320 kilos, 705 pounds for a set of 10. Now you might be like, surely at a set of 10, the weight to be moving too slow, especially at 320, but you'd be wrong.
As you'll see here.
We're all wrong.
Yeah.
So he's squatting 320 by 10. His wife is spotting him. They're both wearing the Velessa shoes.
Interesting note on him, his wife has coached him since 2019.
That's crazy.
Yeah. This is the kind of squat we talk about a fair bit on the channel, the low bar squat with high bar positions. Maintains quite an upright torso. He's going plenty deep enough for most powerlifting federations in the world to class that as a genuine squat. Like that, they're legitimate squats. They're not like high bar ass to grass squats like you'd see a weightlifter doing. But for athletes, these are absolutely sufficient.
So a lot of times you'll see is when we talk about throwers, is throwers doing heavy box squats to above parallel, usually with a high bar position. It doesn't necessarily matter that much, but generally for the high bar to the high box, it's generally a better option. But you'll see them do super heavy weights as fast as possible, and we talked about in their case, that is the beneficial option. These are great squats. There's plenty of powerlifter who'd be envious of these quality of squats, this kind of movement, and certainly this weight, 320 for 10. I cannot imagine the headache he had after this.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane.
Imagine how much blood he had to wipe after. So much, I'd imagine.
For days. Yeah. No, you're absolutely shitting blood after 320 kilos for 10.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now, one of his other sets of squats was 395 kilos for a set of 4. Again, so the angle I think is doing him a little bit of disservice in regards to the depth. It doesn't even matter because he's a thrower and he's moving huge weight for a reasonable range of motion. Obviously, if you shrink that range of motion down too little, you're getting no benefits, but there's a certain kind of critical mass or minimum range of motion where you're going beyond that, you're getting the benefits. If they're the same depth, this kind of angle is very hard to see when it's kind of below parallel.
Almost impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are crazy legitimate.
Yeah.
In my book.
Even more legitimate by the fact that somebody is touching him just under the tit.
Stop.
Just.
Get out of it.
That is the worst place to be touched.
No.
That is
don't
just
touch me.
Instant.
Yeah, you need to be spotted. Okay, you're elite
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. But don't touch him.
No,
get the hands off.
Also, you're an elite athlete with spotter bars in a cage.
Yeah.
How badly wrong can it go?
Yeah, if someone's experienced enough to squat 395 kilos for a set of 4, you probably experienced enough to bail on a heavy squat if needed.
With double spotters on each side,
Yeah.
What can go wrong?
And he was never going to miss that anyway, looking at it.
No.
But also, it would just annoy me personally.
Yeah.
Because if you touch me, it means you helped in some way.
Yeah. So I think this is a deadlift bar he's using, or it's some sort of specialty bar, just because it's so long on the ends. Mm-hmm. The other thing, if you look at his grip width, like when he's using a standard power bar, his grip was almost out to the collars, whereas here his grip looks like he has another kind of few inches to go to the collars.
Yeah.
I love that stacked up wrist position.
Yes.
Like a lot of the heavier athletes, you'll see them super kicks back just because they're very restricted. You'll see with Joe here, like very nice stacked wrist position. Yeah, they're great looking squats.
Whoa, someone said, the good old fake weights. I'm sure it's yours.
Oh my god.
What a loser.
What a loser.
What a fucking loser. So I think low bar is better. Oh my god, why am I reading the comments?
Why are you reading the comments?
I can't help it.
My eyes are hurting.
I've started now. Oh my god.
Quickly put on the behind the neck jerk
Jesus
thing.
Christ.
Oh, Jesus.
So here's a 230 kilo behind the neck split jerk with very casual ease getting up there. Obviously his overhead stability isn't going to be amazing, let alone the fact that it's 230, but this is incredible. So heavyweight, very fast.
The other thing that's incredible with this is, so with weightlifters, when you see them lock out a jerk, it's like absolute terminal extension, then they just stop and they hold it there. And the holding the weight overhead isn't the difficult part. It's the getting it extended is the difficult part. You'll see with Joe, he catches it here with a bit of flexion left in his elbow and then locks it out. Like the amount of power in the tricep just to get that last piece to lock it is very, like, it says a lot about his pressing strength.
So, on the subject of his pressing strength, while we don't have any videos of him benching, what we do have is his wife posting a photo of him going to unrack a 270 kilo bench. Not a board press, not like pin pressing. It just seems to be a 270 kilo something with a bench.
Yeah.
I don't think he's doing unracking holds here. So, it's funny, usually we don't see throwers doing a lot of benching. I know a lot of the older school coaches don't think it's relevant. I'm more inclined to believe that it certainly is useful, not the most useful thing, but a heavy bench with really fast weights, I think I can't see it not being useful within the realms of like healthy anatomical shoulders and movement like that.
The other thing with that is if you're able to bench 270 kilos, it's a very, very good sign.
No, it's certainly...
You know, like you're not going to be weak in the shoulder.
Yes.
I also think, so people, I know in field sports, the bench press got a lot of flack because the range of motion isn't really applicable to a lot of people, like particularly with rugby players and football players. The shoulders aren't going to allow you to come all the way down and maintain a good position on the bench. So in that case, you see a lot of people doing like a partial range of motion bench press or a board press, or they'll do a floor press or something like that. For a shot putter, when they're stacking their arm all the way in here, realistically that range of motion isn't too dissimilar to the range of motion you'd be required to do for a bench. Particularly if you're 130 or 140 kilos, you're going to have quite a lot of tissue out in front of you. So like it's not it's by no means way outside the pale for what they're looking to do. Like the bench press I think is important.
I don't think most of our audience will know what outside the pale means.
Tune into next week's podcast to find out what outside the pale means.
When we rant on imperialism. So I would love to have seen a video of this 270. I wish there was more videos of Joe.
Yeah.
There really doesn't seem to be a whole lot on the internet, so it took a lot of work to find these videos, but what ridiculous finds they were. So Joe, second best competitive shot putter of all time. One of the strongest humans alive currently, I would imagine. Definitely one of the strongest Olympic athletes of all time.
Absolutely.
Unless we go back into the 80s when there was some of the Soviet athletes. A funny story, I told this on the show before, but Rodchenkov, the gentleman, the star of Icarus, the head of Russian doping up until a few years ago before Putin tried to kill him, he was basically the mastermind behind all of the doping and anti-doping in Russia. He has very good autobiography. I can't remember what the name of the... From Russia with Love, I think, or that's a different anti-doping one from Russia. So Rodchenkov has an autobiography. It's not that hard to find. He talks about different kind of athletes coming through the system, and he used to tell kind of anecdotal, funny stories about different athletes all across the USSR and Russia as large. One funny story was talk about the wrestlers, and some of them, I think it was from the Caucasus Mountains. He was saying they're not the kind of people you mess with. So sometimes athletes would accidentally test positive, and once the positive test happened, it was very hard to get rid of it. But he said it happened one time with the wrestlers. They were essentially a mafia. The anecdote or the positive test happened by accident, and it was made clear that it should definitely go away. But that's not the story. So there was a story of a thrower. Now in HPLC, I don't know if you saw those Turkmenistan videos we did, where you essentially analyse different substances, and one of the things they use for anti-doping. At one stage there was a thrower who had taken so much stanazolol that there was carryover on the system to another person's sample, so they got a false positive. So if his sample was ran first from his urine, there was so much that there was remnants left on the system, and so when another injection of sample following a different athlete was ran through, if they didn't wash the system thoroughly enough, that athlete would have had so much stanazol from that thrower. I can't remember who the thrower was.
Yeah.
But it was just how much gear he was taking. Obviously not anything on Joe Kovacs here, but just a funny story in throwing and doping.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hope you enjoyed the video. Anything to add?
As we say this at the end of every video, but we massively appreciate if there's more athletes out there like Joe, or athletes that you think we mightn't have heard of that you'd like to see us do a video on, or if you just have questions that you'd like to see us answered, pop them down in the comments below. These athletes we become aware of these athletes through you guys commenting, through you guys sending us DMs, sending us emails, and we're massively appreciative of it. So if you have one, comment down below. If you're scrolling through the comments, you see an athlete you like, make sure you like that or reply to that comment. It will make a massive difference and hopefully get us a few more videos.
So Werner Gunter is obviously a person a lot of people have been requesting. So if you leave a W in the chat below for Werner Gunter, we'll definitely put him to the top of the pile.